Hey guys, this is Nick here with What Game Now, and we're back again with another Warcaster video. We're finishing off the second wave of the first Kickstarter models, and this one we're going to talk about wildcards. Before we get going, what the heck is a wildcard? Because that hasn't come up before. Wildcards at this time are not a faction. They are effectively mercenaries. They are models that will play for two factions in this case. All the ones we've seen so far play for two factions. I don't think there's a hard rule that says they have to. So going forward, there could very easily be a 3-faction one or even a 4-faction one going later. But the ones we all have right now, there's 3 of them currently in Warcaster, and there's 3 more coming with the next Kickstarter. All play for 2 factions, and we're just going to go ahead and hop into them. The first guy is voytech Surah, Bounty Hunter. So he's actually a ISA paladin who basically left the service under some questionable circumstances. And he's turned into essentially a professional bounty hunter. Think of this guy kind of like Boba Fett. He does work for the Alliance and the Marcher Worlds, which is pretty good. And he is armed with a lot of ISA-style tech. He's got a shoulder-mounted Force Constrictor. We'll talk about what that does in a moment. And he's also got some jamming equipment and null detonators to just essentially make his life a little bit easier. Deployment cost 1, that's just across the board. He's a solo. Speed 6, Mat 4, Rat 5, Defense 3, Armor 3 with 3 hit points. Welcome to the guys. Because they're named heroes, they're allowed to be better because they don't come back. Defense 3, Armor 3 is not bad with 3 hit points. It's certainly no Marauder stats. I'd rather have the extra armor at that point. Rat 5, Mat 4 is quite good though. Like I said, he plays for ISA and Marcher Worlds. He's on a 30 mil base with Pathfinder, Native Stealth, which is really good, and Weapons Expert. Weapons Expert says he can attack with all of his weapons in one turn. Remember, normally warrior models can't do that. They have to pick a gun. Loadout-wise, he has the Force Constrictor, a range 10 POW 3 gun that has an ability that, after you hit a model, you can spike to give that unit an activation token. It's the same thing that the Continuum Entrifier does. Really powerful ability, although you are giving this guy arc, he can only have one. Getting it to him can be a little bit difficult, but when he's got it, you can shut something down, and that's a very powerful effect. He has a null detonator, range 6. It has no POW because it doesn't actually do any damage. Instead, you just clear arc from whatever you hit. Clear 1 arc off whatever you hit, which is a pretty good ability. He has a combat blade, range 1, POW 3. It has nothing special to it. The only other ability this guy has is while he's charged, increase the deployment cost of enemy units from void gates within 10 inches of him. So basically, he's a 10-inch increased cost by 1 aura. That throws a lot of stuff off. Now, there's an interesting question here. Not really a question, but an interesting comment. So, stat-wise, he's not super killy. At least, not that I've found. He's more of a disruption and support piece. So if you're looking at this guy going, yeah, he's going to go kill a bunch of guys. No. The Force Constrictor is going to be used. You can kill light infantry with it. Those Continuum vassals are really not going to be happy about getting shot by it, but I'm not convinced an ISA Paladin would really care. Your null detonator is range 6, clears arc off, which is going to be very helpful. But there's a very interesting note here that stealth, he has stealth. Stealth will get him where he needs to go. It will not save him when he's there. He needs to be charged to use his abilities. He kind of wants to spike to use the Force Constrictor. I feel like he's getting pulled a lot of different ways. And while that gives him a lot of options, it also means that you can make a lot of mistakes with him. For example, the deployment cost by 1 can be one of the most powerful effects in the game. So can Stun Module. But they're mutually exclusive. If you spike to give an activation token to something, you are now no longer charged for Gate Jammer. Now you can fix that with a Cipher card, but you're now spending a Cipher card on that. Okay. He has Stealth, which will get him where he needs to go, but all of his abilities, his Null Detonator is only range 6, and his Gate Jammer is only range 10. And remember, there's somebody probably within 5 inches of where that gate is, which means they could probably move and attack you. So stealth will get you where you need to go. It's the same thing with Pathfinder. But is it really going to save him when he's there? So, and at defense 3, armor 3, yeah, he's got 3 hit points. He's not super hard to kill. I mean, I play Continuum, and I'm looking at this guy going, One Hollow Fade shot might kill him. I might need a secondary shot. Defense 3 is not much, and to get that 10 inches on a Void Gate, you might not. You have less options on where you can stand, especially if you want to leverage like his null detonator and all that. You don't have a lot of options on where you're going to stand with this guy, and if you don't have a lot of options where to stand, you're less likely to be in cover. What I mean by that is, where does he have to be to leverage his abilities? 10 inches of the thing that maybe you're going to give an activation token to, 10 inches of a gate, and 6 inches of a thing you want to strip arc off of. Maybe you're within 6 inches of the gate because you want to strip arc off that. You have so many less choices on where to be, which means you're less likely to find cover. And if you're less likely to find cover, defense 3 is not going to save you. So I like him a lot. I think of the wild cards, there's a good argument to be had that he's the most powerful right now. But I think that a lot of people are going to make a lot of mistakes with him. It's very easy to go overboard. And keep in mind that when he dies, he's gone. You're not getting him back. All right, next up, Baron Morgrave. So his first name's Cassius, by the way. So he is actually he's from the ISA. He works for he's a descendant of one of the houses in the ISA leadership. Unfortunately, he found a cursed relic and has had an unnaturally long lifespan and is of questionable stability. He's considered a treasonous asset, but is still nonetheless an asset. He also works with the Eternus Continuum, and this relic blade called Oblivion he found it in some forgotten world, and it basically consumes souls. There's an interesting question. I went looking, and I can't find any references in War Machine to a weapon called Oblivion that consumes souls. Maybe I missed it. I would be really curious to see. It'd be funny, like, maybe this is like Asphyxius' weapon or something like that, but I couldn't find it. If anybody knows, let me know. Anyway, to the Baron himself. Speed 6, Mat 5, Rat 4, Defense 3, Armor 4. So, Mat 5, good. Rat 4, perfectly serviceable. Armor 4, Defense 3 is pretty tasty. That's better than Marauder stats here. He is an ISA and Continuum solo, and he does have Weapons Expert as well, so he can attack with both his gun and his sword. 3 hit points is very helpful. All right, some stats here. So just talking through, we want to go through all this stuff before we really start talking about him. Living Terror, he gets +2 defense against melee attacks made by warrior models. I have yet to have this ability come up because most people have just shot him. Maybe it's because he would be defense 5. I do not know the answer to that question. Phase Stalker, he can spike to use Phase Stalker, which lets him move up to 3 inches and make 1 additional attack. Since he is Weapons Expert, he could potentially attack you 3 times in a turn if you're willing to spike for it. His sword, Oblivion, has the ability Gorge. When you destroy a warrior model with the attack, remove 1 damage from this model. So if he gets there, which the speed 6 isn't that bad, armor 4 is solid, but notice he does not have stealth. There are there's questions about him actually getting there, but when he gets there, he's kind of a self-sustaining machine. High intensity, when he makes an attack, you roll 2 power dice for each Archon instead of 1. So when he swings with his sword, he's 5 white dice and 2 red. So he's probably hitting when he's going to hit. It's POW 5, so there's a good chance he's going to kill it if it has, less than 2 hit points or 2 hit points or less. He's going to heal a point if it was a warrior model and he killed it. And when he destroys an enemy model, you can immediately charge this model if it's not already charged. So you can kill a guy with Oblivion, so stab him, charge the Baron, shoot somebody, spike off that arc, move 3 inches and stab somebody else again, and get that back. He's kind of a mini Pac-Man. His attacks aren't unlimited. He can potentially kill 3 models in a turn. He's got decent defensive stats, so I actually found he makes a pretty decent objective grabber. Because he's not trivial to remove. On the other hand, his personal output is entirely melee dependent, and he has no inbuilt delivery systems to get there. Except for Phase Stalker. Phase Stalker, you don't have to make the attack, but you can just move 3 inches. So he's effectively move 9 if you really want him to be, which is helpful. The big thing with him is getting shot on the way in. Once he gets there, he's a pretty solid melee piece. And his armor with hit points, it's not terrible. Especially when you look at the factions that he's in. ISA doesn't have anything to help him right now, but Continuum, on the other hand, with a Grafter, if that Grafter's charged, this guy's getting an extra point of armor to make him armor 5. You could put him next to Raxus and make him defense 5 or defense 3 with cover. And the Grafter could even pull hit points off him if you need it. So Continuum's got some more delivery options for him, but that's just natively how their faction works. ISA, he's a decent backfield solo, and he has a nice melee punch because I found a lot of ISA players. ISA initially started off as the high armor faction, and I think that's not entirely wrong, but I think it's a bit misleading because going forward, I think you're going to see compound armor's cute. I think I said this in the ISA video. Compound armor on them is cute. It's very helpful when it comes up, but as more and more weapons come available, it's less and less likely to come up. If you watched our Eternus Continuum video, our Marcher World video on this, or ISA video on this, go back and question how many new blast weapons showed up, and how many of the good guns are blast weapons now. When it was just starter boxes and a few extra things, that rocket pack everybody had access to is pretty good. And that's kind of questionable. There's better stuff out there. It's worth knowing that this guy doesn't have compound armor to you ISA players, so don't play him like he does. But anyway, the pontification on that was, I think ISA is much more of a utility faction than people think it is. They have good armor, but they have access. Most of their stuff can make melee and range attacks together. This guy's a good example. The ability to do that lets them kind of punch above their weight class because they effectively have more attacks than everybody else. And I think that's kind of the hidden faction identity with ISA. And this guy's a good example of it. His gun is serviceable. Rat 4, POW 8, or range 8, POW 4 is really good. But he's also got that pocket melee presence that he can just walk 9 inches and punch you and make you regret it. It is worth noting that I think the way that Face Stalker works, it's move 3 inches and make 1 additional attack. You have to make the attack after the 3 inches, but you can spike before you make your attacks. So you can move 6, spike 3, stab, and then stab shoot. All right, last solo, Captain Jack's Red Blade. So basically, she's a pirate. Basically, like I said, she's a pirate. She's wanted by the alliances. She's wanted by the Marcher Worlds. The Marcher Worlds will kind of work with him. We'll kind of work with her, but she's a pirate. She'll work for whoever pays the most. Marcher Worlds will use her, and the Continuum obviously has no scruples against using her. Stat-wise, she is Speed 6, Mat 5, Rat 4, so pretty decent. Defense 5, Armor 3 with 3 hit points. Hey, voytech, this is what better defensive stats look like. Defense 5 is pretty significant. Especially when you're armor 3 with 3 hit points. She does work for Continuum and Marcher Worlds. Marcher Worlds can heal her. Also curious to see what their new Warder solo does. While on the other hand, the Eternus Continuum can buff the crap out of her stats. They can make her defense 5 with cover and armor 4 at the same time if you're willing to be a little arc intensive. Weapons expert again, so she can stab and shoot in the same activation. She has the same magnum that Morgrave did, and she has a fusion sword, which is 1 POW less. Not much to say there. Abilities. When this model is charged, she gains +3 speed and flight. She has a jetpack. So speed 9 with flight. She can get weird places. She can actually leverage her melee weapon reasonably well. You want to be charged to do it. So Mat 5 with 1 red dice is still perfectly serviceable. Well, not amazing. She has Refractor Field. She can spike to reroll a defense roll. If you roll terribly, you can just spike and say, nope, we're going to do this again. And she has Riposte. If she's missed by a melee attack, she can attack the model that targeted it, that missed her. It is worth noting that with Riposte, it doesn't specify melee attack. You can shoot them. Which is, I mean, if you're in melee, I would just take the melee attack back, but she's only melee range 1, so maybe they're stabbing you from further than she can reply. So, Morgrave was a melee beast, and a bit of an arc-intensive one at that. Surah is highly arc-intensive support piece. This fairly fine lady right here is just purely a combat piece. She just goes out, Her job is to attack things. She doesn't hit super hard, but she'll hit hard enough to scare whatever she's going to be attacking. Don't put her against a warjack. That's not what she's going to want to do. But she's surprisingly hard to deal with, especially if you can get her in cover. Defense 5 in cover is kind of hard. With the new mantlets coming out, that might be easier. If you're playing Eternus Continuum, you can just plop her next to Raxus. And again, you could graft her to make her armor 4. I found Eternus Continuum makes these combat solos sing really well. You are going to want to have her charged, which is unfortunate, but not the end of the world. You have her on the table. You want her to do some work, and she has a combat solo. So giving her an arc I don't think is particularly crazy. That makes her speed 9, which gets her into weird places. She has flight, so she can fly over terrain and stuff like that, which is going to be very helpful. And the ability to spike for that defense reroll. White dice are, when you roll lots of dice, there's consistency there. But being able to just not care and say, hey, I'm not going to do this. We're going to just be defense, whatever the heck. You know, I'm going to say, all right, I'm defense 5 with 2 red dice. I just don't want to get hit. So I think that, you know, of the 3, my apologies, everyone. Of the 3, I think voytech's the best, pretty consistently, just because his toolbox abilities. But he's not available in the faction that has the pile of toolbox abilities as is. So that's part of why I think he's good. Morgrave, I think, is a bit of a bully. And unfortunately, I think it's the most limited of the 3. Redblade is the weakest of the 3 in terms of abilities and output, but is more flexible than the Baron. Take your pick. That concludes our Wave 1 wildcards. I do want to go ahead and say that there are going to be 3 of these in the next wave. They all work for the new faction, the Empyreans, and then there's 1 for Continuum, 1 for Marchers, and 1 for ISA. So in about maybe 6 months, we'll have those. Might be a little bit longer than I think fulfillment's in April, so yeah, hopefully around 6 months. And with that, guys, I will catch you on the next one. This has been Nick with What Game Now, signing off.
Hey, this is Dave. If you like what we're doing here at What Game Now, go ahead and click on one of the videos which should be on either side of me, or click right in the middle and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell once you subscribe so that you know when we have new videos. Please go ahead and share us with your friends. Let everybody know that we're here. Thank you for watching, and thank you for all of our subscribers already. And we look forward to bringing you more content every chance that we get.